Hive.
Hello and welcome to the January 20th, 2014 Peeragogy Accelerator Hangout. We have a robust crew here today, and we are very excited if you are watching. If you want to find more about us, you can visit peeragogy.org, Peeragogy.org. We're going to go around and introduce ourselves. My name is Charlie, and I teach English as a second language, and I've been working on Peeragogy for the past few years. We have Paula next.
Hi, I'm Paula. I'm from Ecuador. I live in Mexico. I am a teacher. And I'm glad to be here.
Charlotte?
I'm Charlotte Pierce. I'm an independent publisher in the Boston area and a board member on the Independent Publishers of New England, which is starting a Peeragogy pilot project for people to learn about independent publishing. And I'm one of the editors of the Peeragogy Handbook.
Thank you, ladies. And Joe?
Hi, I'm Joe Corneli. I'm from the U.S., living in the U.K., so there we go. Got some of that going on. What else? I'm in the process of finishing my PhD for real this time. I've passed my final exam. I'm just making a few corrections. That's what I was working on today, but I study peer learning in a mathematics context when I'm not doing this.
Doug?
Yeah, my name is Doug Breitbart. I'm a Rheingold U alum and general catalyst provocateur. I'm an attorney by training, and according to the state of New York, still licensed. And I do corporate consulting and generally stirring of the pot.
Excellent. Jan?
Hello, everybody. I'm Jan Herder, and I run a performing arts center in a small liberal arts college in Vermont. I teach technical theater and design. I'm a theatrical designer, and I'm working with a local group of maker people, for lack of better words, to try to get an acceleration project off the ground.
Would that include Doug Webster?
Yes.
Yeah.
And did you submit that last week, Jan?
I did.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that too. It's very exciting. And then we have John also. John, I think have you been here before?
I've been involved in related Hangouts. This is the first time I think on this. Okay. And I'm John Blossom, president of Shore Communications. I'm an industry consultant that works with content and technology companies on their marketing strategy, author of Content Nation, a book on social media, and working on a project for improved communications in developing nations called Incomo. And a pleasure to be here.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I feel like we've been on Hangout with you before. All right, Mr. Raymond Puzio, are you available for audio? All right, well, Mr. Puzio, we'll have that. And then we also have Lisa Snow McDonald, who was kindly joined us. I think both of them are...
They're both muted. They
wait. Well, somebody just was trying to speak.
Oh, I can unmute real quick. Hopefully there's not bad feedback. Just Lisa McDonald, Snow McDonald, a media psychology background, and I'm calling from Los Angeles.
Great.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
If everybody has headphones, can you install those? Because we have so many people, we're going to get horrible feedback if we don't. Okay, go ahead, Charlie.
Looks like Ray's ready to say something.
Mr. Puzio? No? All right. Okay. Well, why don't we start? We have multiple things going on today. Why don't we start? Jan, why don't you give us a rundown of how last week turned out for you?
But you're muted.
Okay.
There. So yeah, I submitted the educational business competition that I gratefully appreciate all your inputs and comments. I didn't want to like talk it up a lot because I have a superstition about that. So I was going to wait until I get some more feedback from the organization. But it was kind of tricky to be so succinct.
For sure.
Yeah, you weigh every word and then you have to throw it all out because they count, spaces as characters. But anyway, it was great to have the input and what little Hive editing occurred. And I'm really excited about the Accelerator possibilities because it looks like a lot of us are going off on our own sort of projects and trying to incorporate this peer work. So I'm excited to do this, and hopefully we'll get some traction on some of these projects.
Yeah, definitely. I put a link to the competition he entered. It's a very cool educational business competition in the chat. All right. Well, I guess we can talk about the Flock doc for sure. Is there anything else anybody else wants to talk? That can go on for a while. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about?
So I just want to put a plug in that hopefully we will actually do a bit of editing on this thing I stuck into the chat, Peeragogy Accelerator landing page. I can paste it in again if anyone just joined, but yeah, we can do that after we review past events, but yeah, that's hopefully coming up a little later.
Can I make a request?
Please.
It's easy for the people in the chat, or in the panel here, to see the chat, but if we need to share any links that the people watching, the event page would be the one for that. I can move some of them over there as we go, but if it's not something privileged information, then we can let people hear about it over there.
Okay, that is a good point. So we'll use the links on the event page.
Now,
all right.
also, if I could just check in, I've been doing sort of director stuff, clicking on the person that's talking to highlight them on my screen. I'm just curious whether they're highlighting on all of your screens.
I think that I have to do that as the one who started it. I gave controls to most of you so that you can mute yourself, or if someone else is typing, you can mute them.
Okay.
Try not to have any food fights or anything.
It is lunchtime, at least in Chicago. All right. Everything good for you, Doug? How's life?
That's fine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm good.
All right. Well, Joe, what did you link us to? And I assume you've linked on the event page so the public can also access this document?
I haven't. I'm still stunned from my difficult time joining. So, but
I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah. You seem to be. Go ahead.
Says a Google Doc
I got it.
Edit.
Yep.
Is that it?
That should be accessible if you can click through to edit the thing. So I will talk through that.
All right. Yeah. Talk through that, and I'll put it on the public page.
I could even do a screen share. For a second.
Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that?
But I'll start talking while I do the screen share. So basically what I'm about to show you, for many people who've already clicked through, is a document that is the landing page for us, for what we're doing right now. And it looks very unappealing to someone who just comes in. It's probably a bit mysterious. It starts by saying, hey, here's a sketch. Peeragogy handbook editors will help participants collaboratively accelerate their OER work by leveraging peer learning. That's maybe okay as a mission statement. I hope we would all sort of agree that's what we're trying to do, either receive some help or give some help or both. But later on in the page, there's a long list of things we've done since the last 2 years of the Peeragogy project have been running. We've tried this and we've tried that. We've made grant proposals. We've written open letters. We've talked with a bunch of people around the world about different ideas and how we can team up and collaborate. And a lot of that stuff is sort of on pause. We had some great ideas that we haven't moved forward yet, and hopefully sometime during the year we can unpause the things that are on pause. And what else can I say about it? Well, let's see. So yeah, so then there's a few things that didn't work, like our previous grant proposals didn't get funded, okay? So it would be nice to kind of troubleshoot using that past data and think about why weren't we successful with the grant proposals? I mean, you get 1 in 10, so it could just be bad luck. Why are some of our great ideas on ice right now? Maybe we're just busy. And then why are the things that have really been so successful? The Peeragogy handbook is at a great stable version 2 level, and as we do this stuff this year, we'll inch it ahead to version 3, hopefully, with a lot more empirical data. So I would say we've definitely had some successes with this mixed bag, and it's expected to be a mixed bag. But my hope is, as we go forward, we can actually continue to learn from our past successes and failures and all the stuff in between. So there's some nice focus questions for this doc. And basically, I'd love to spend at least 15, 20 minutes just trying to answer them one by one. People will have some insights we can type in insights into the document, and hopefully also at the end, maybe I'd
Hello,
take some
William.
questions.
Well, are
Or
you
you.
saying this is this should be the peeragogy.org landing page or something?
This is the peeragogy.org landing page. It's in the Flock doc there's a footnote that says come see this page. There is no other landing page.
What do you mean? This is not this Google Doc is the Peeragogy.
No, not the Google Doc. No. This is the content. Yeah. I copied. You're right. Okay, so I copied the content from the Commons Abundance Network page.
Okay. Got it.
I should say, but this is the content of the landing page. Yeah.
The Accelerator landing page.
Yes. I'll put the link, the actual link, in the actual chat here, so people can see what it looks like.
Put the link in the chat at the top of the Google Doc and on the event page.
Dude, okay, that's going to keep me busy for the next half an hour.
Hello, William.
I can do something. I had to drop out a little bit ago.
That's fine.
William, I left William a message in the chat about muting and the headphones. So.
Okay, give me a minute.
Okay.
So Joe, can I stick my nose in, my beak in first on this?
I was hoping you would.
I know the difference to my mind between the Peeragogy handbook project and the Peeragogy Accelerator as for want of a better way of putting it in crass commercial terms, a service provider. Is all the difference in the world in terms of audience, purpose, intent, and output. And the handbook, to my mind, stands as sort of model, output, framework and skeleton, and all of the ingredients of a project realized via peeragogical practice. Right? So it's sort of this great, big, developed and evolving use case, qual, for the accelerator side of things. The accelerator as a service provider, if my characterizing it that way goes down okay with everybody, because it's a different sort of framing and contextualization for it. Needs to articulate exactly what the service set is, what the offer is. And the accelerator, in terms of the expression of the accelerator, the description of the accelerator, up to now, and this is in the context also of the grant, the grant and project proposal things that we've put together. And in fairness, I haven't put a lot of those together. I've always been the gadfly that came in and threw either rocks or made typo corrections and stuff like that. So I wasn't primary drafts person. But those framings tended to describe Peeragogy as project rather than Peeragogy Accelerator as service provider. And I think that's part of the sort of misalignment and confusion of message that I suspect made those proposals a little bit too opaque for the competitions and the things that we were pitching to. Because if somebody else was there saying, I'm selling widgets, and somebody else is saying, I'm selling wombats, and we come along and we go, well, we're involved in this, group project, process thing about learning and about, people coming together and sharing resources, and, it's not gonna filter to the top of the list, because most of the people reading it are just not going to get the story. So I think shifting perspective that way really requires us to distill out from lessons learned, practices, and all of the rest, what is the pedagogical process in terms of the nitty-gritty of that? What are the component parts of it in terms of when people come together, how they come together, on a mechanics level, on a descriptive level, and how do you sort and sift roles and functions, responsibilities, and governance? How do you do those things as a practical, mechanical, descriptive narrative in concrete terms? Because the practice divorced from whatever the particular context, application, or project, we haven't really distilled that out yet. And I think it's almost a parallel track. It's almost like a scaffold or framework that we would be well advised to extract from what we've done and what we're doing, and then sort of map it to more of a definable concrete process. So that's
I am doing pretty good on the note taking, and I really this time I completely agree with everything you said. So thank you. I think that's a great mission statement. Go ahead, Ray.
Well, I was going to say with the
Yes?
So this time I guess that means I can be heard. That all right. So what I was going to say is that with respect to that, the question is with some of these, I imagine some of these services maybe there are things we'd want to offer we don't have yet. Likewise, a few minutes ago, was mentioned that some of the things that there's a bunch of frozen projects. So I think one thing that should be made clear is that this is the nature of the project is that it's a work in progress, and that people who are interested are invited to contribute. So for example, if you see something that's stalled or a service that isn't there, you're invited to help provide it.
That makes a lot of sense, and so there's there's an interesting corollary to that, which is there's individual action, and the individual action is catalytic on a larger group, right? So going from individual to group, and then there's sort of group-generated tasks, to-dos, and the flow down or delegation of those tasks, to-dos to individuals, right? And I think sort of unique in the pedagogical model is that both of those things are wide open and part of the organic nature of the endeavor. That everybody's enfranchised as an individual to catalyze up, and everybody in the group is empowered to add to the to-do list in brainstorming and fleshing out and figuring out what's called for and what's required.
Right, and since that's,
What,
like you said, a lot different than other contexts, it probably needs to be made clear. Otherwise, people won't even think to do something like that.
what do you think, Jan?
I guess what's the question? I'm still trying to understand the accelerator as a service model, and I definitely see there's some service elements in it, but I was just hoping to flesh that idea out a little more, Doug.
Okay, so let me do it. Let me do it by first by sort of reference to what's crossed the paths of the group and what we've applied ourselves to. So in microcosm, you threw something up and said, doing this, submitting this, help, right? And then you had, a bunch of folks from the peanut gallery come back at you with input and offering. So conceptually, that's sort of like the smallest unit of Peeragogy Hive activity around somebody saying, could use some help with this, and it's an immediate short-term gratification like here, right? Then sort of on the other end of the spectrum or scale, you've got the Flock project. You've got somebody who's literally terraforming a country's cultural meme, financial meme, governmental meme. I mean, literally tackling the mind experiment of transforming a whole country's conceptual orientation toward how it runs itself, how it supports itself, develops itself, educates itself. Sort of massive thing. And in that context, our pitch to them is and this is again as the Peeragogy Accelerator, as a service provider. In that context, we're saying we've got practices and a framework and an orientation and value set for how one might tackle your kind of endeavor that we think would be valuable stirred into the soup, right? So in that context, we're offering services. Now, it's not clear whether we're offering, whether it's as rigid and stiff as a post-industrial consulting gig, Accenture style, or whether it's more in service to our experiment and their experiment, whether stirring us in and what we know about this kind of approach to collaboration and engagement, we can shed light and provide value and sort of support and facilitation insight to what they're taking on. So the concept of service provider, I think, is literally that. It can be everything from, in an open source context, us finding other opportunities to exercise our pedagogical muscles as a group and as a team of people developing an expertise in a type of collaboration that the world doesn't normally do because it's absent. It lacks power structures and it lacks competitive structures. And, there, but for the grace of God, I'm very happy about that. And I think there are other contexts where it's possible we could actually have a facilitation offer that could be something that folks in private sector or NGO, not-for-profit world might find valuable. I think there is, the world is going through an emergent evolution on a community and governmental level and governance level. And there are contexts where pedagogy is sort of organically and naturally practiced on a village level, on a town level, on an indigenous population level, where I think we could help provide that and stir that into the soup for folks that are trying to figure that out. So there are public sector, NGO sector, and private sector possibilities to apply our expertise or to find value in our expertise being brought to other people's parties. And it's not this minute more defined than that, but I think there's business there. Or a fundable entity and enterprise there, even if that's not-for-profit grant, public sector based.
What do you think?
I'm muted, but I think we're just basically knocking out an awesome white paper brief right now. So I think, Doug, we make a pretty good team. You talk, I write, and write down what you say. It's pretty good. But I did want to reflect it back to Jan, because I think Jan has some insights here in a Mondo document that actually I would love to have you guys work together on that, so we don't end up reinventing that particular wheel, because I think what Jan has is kind of like a peeragogical creed or something like that. It's not quite a law. It's not legalese. It's very easy to understand, but it says, hey, here's how things can work. Here's how this particular kind of thing that you were just talking about can work in a number of different contexts. It doesn't go into a lot of detail because it's still high level. It's still saying, hey, we got this thing, we can plug it in. You want windmills? Okay, we can plug it into your windmills or whatever. But I see it as kind of like that, and I would see you two as possibly being two of the people who could turn it into that, from being a long document into being something that says kind of peeragogy by the numbers or something like that, paint by number. Except the thing is, it isn't that, because I think you're right, that it does require some hands-on time, probably from us or from someone else who knows what they're doing, to make it work. So even though it's kind of peeragogy by the numbers, or it could be, it's going to take some work. And it's going to also take, in any given case, it's going to take some investment. And this is one of the things that Jan and I have been kicking back and forth by email is, okay, supposing we got $10 or $100, or supposing I have it burning a hole in my pocket right now, how could we conceivably use that? I think the answer is most of us couldn't use it, but someone who's actually building these gosh darn windmills could use it really well. They could use it really, $100 goes very far in terms of buying windmill parts in rural Africa or whatever. So that's enough for me. I was hoping to just reflect it back to Jan to see if he wanted to hook it up to his document, which is, I think, waiting in the wings to come into this process as a module for what we're doing.
Thanks, Joe. I guess for me, that I'm struggling with specific instances to help me clarify the theoretical, and definitely the flock document. It's like you expand your world and then you shrink your world, and you get to see things differently from both perspectives. So yeah, my project's a little tiny thing right now, and that helps me understand it. But when I read the flock document, I was like, whoa, what are these people doing? So I guess thinking of it as a service, that makes more sense to me. But then the question is, well, is Peeragogy .org, is it a nonprofit that then has a structure that can take advantage of this or provide the service?
The concrete answer is right now it's no. It could be yes by the end of the year if we wanted to make that. I think we've got definitely the talent and experience to make nonprofits. We can make 10 if we wanted by the end of the year. So it takes some investment and time, but I think we've got all of that. If we want that, we may not want Peeragogy.org to be a nonprofit for strategic reasons. We still might want a nonprofit or whatever to do something, to take some of these ideas forward. It could be a different name, but I wanted to go back to one of your core concepts, which was the concept of facilitation. And that was something that Doug mentioned as one of the services we could provide. 2 or 2:15. I think we got to go the longer time because we started a little late. So yeah, it would be good to zoom in on that. I think, and again, we can practice what we preach right now in this conversation. There's a bunch of other folks here who haven't gotten a chance to say something because we've been going back and forth. But we did get some awesome input into the doc from people. So I'm going to go back to taking notes. I've raised my comments and questions. Probably I'll be quiet for at least 15 minutes just taking notes, I hope, because there's lots of other people here who've got things to say. So get ready to hear me type.
If you can identify yourself when you talk, because if the document's on, it might be hard to figure out who's talking.
Absolutely. Lisa, do you have any thoughts or anything you'd like to share?
Just
Okay, just listening. Got it. Paula, do you have anything?
Well, I agree with you, though. I really thank you because you are so clear, and I think that it helps us to think about the future. The handbook is our home, and the accelerator can be our road, our trip to the world. So.
Whoa, nice.
So I think that if we can think in this way, we can help us and other people to achieve their goals with our pedagogical muscle, as those said. I think it's very there's a lot of hope about what can we do and how can we get involved with more people in this point. Offering something concrete. I feel great. I think we have done a lot of things, and I think the handbook is, of course, one of those great products. And I think that all the other projects that maybe I don't think it's not a failure. I think it's learning. I think that could be a good base to keep working. And probably with the accelerator, we can just refine and be more effective for next endeavors. That's how I feel about it.
Absolutely. Nice. I like the book home and the accelerator road, flexing pedagogical muscle. Excellent. John, do you have anything you want to say or anything? Hanging out here.
I am unmuting. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I think pretty much what I wrote in the document that we're working on here, and it reflects some of the other comments I've had in earlier discussions. My profession is designing product and marketing plans. So what I hear you folks talking about is a services framework. And the question becomes, how much of this do you want to do, how soon? Because it sounds like you have a number of things. You have training, facilitation, certification, consulting, interim project management, practitioner community subscriptions, and then some other folks added a couple of other bullets there, chaos troubleshooting and pedagogy coaching. I think those are potentially overlap, but not necessarily. Those could be additional value-add services. So basically, you want a site that scratches an itch and is able to define to people, you've got problem X, we can help you. And the materials that you have are good, but I think it's just a matter of packaging them up with a little bit more polish that allows people to get exactly, what problem is being solved. And I've mentioned it before, and I'm not going to harp on it, but I do think that cognitive edge that has a similarly abstract concept, if you will, that they've been able to concretize into, very profitable services. That happens to be their model. It doesn't have to be yours. Is something to think about. To be able to think about how do you communicate effectively on the value of your services. And that's probably in terms of other sorts of activities, is how do you populate something like a YouTube channel on a regular basis with small clips, 60 seconds to 3 minutes, that describe, what is peeragogy, how does it help, mini case studies, interviews with people that said, we did X and we got Y, and that's great. And things of that sort. There's a lot of do obviously in this, but many hands can make light work. So, I think everybody's barking in the right direction.
Thank you, sir. And that was very specific, helpful thoughts and ideas.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, I agree about the point about having specific use cases, especially when the thing can sound, too general if you just read about it in the book.
Yeah, definitely right. Definitely right. We need to be more specific, and absolutely, that would help clarify
just
what are
4 test cases, case studies, mini case studies that say, strawberry, vanilla, chocolate, success.
Stromboli.
Also, I expect for a lot of people, the way they might, way it would work is if they read a few cases, then they say, okay, this would work for me because what I'm doing sounds similar to what these people did for whom it helped.
Yeah.
And I would expect a lot of people would join that way rather than because they read the general principles and then came to the conclusion that it would be useful for them.
I think part of, and John, this goes back to your comment. Part of it is sort of productizing this a little bit more. The polished comment you made to me evoked, if we can productize the offer. And in the course of doing that, I think it's possible to develop sort of questionnaires that map to peeragogy responses or solutions or offerings, so that somebody arriving can dial themselves in terms of what their need or pain is, or what their challenge is, and we can probably map that to aspects of the peeragogy practice that might provide the solution or the cure that you were relating to.
Doug, that's a very interesting point, and out of that sort of thing, you begin to see the default pain cases, so to speak, and you can begin to develop a market map. You can hypothesize on that, but I think you're kind of in pre-hypothesis mode here.
Yeah.
You're trying to find more case studies to be able to prove out your hypothesis. So, probably better going off with an open-end sort of guide, such as what you're talking about.
I can't tell if I was quiet for 15 minutes or not, but I do have some stuff to say here. That we have quite a few cases waiting in the wings. So we got the flock doc, which has 4 kind of distinct application styles. We had pointed out how could we help each of the different streams within the flock project. So they got 4 streams, and we said, hey, we could do these 4 different things. Those are still very hypothetical use cases. They haven't said, yeah, we want that. Maybe only one of them is what they really want. Maybe none. But then I also think Jan's document has got a bunch of kind of implicit use cases in the different sections, and I think we'd have to break it out section by section. But again, if we're thinking it as a creed of some kind, we'd say, each part would apply to one kind of use case or one kind of population, one that may come up over and over again. So I think we have some of those things at the hypothetical level waiting in the wings. We do also definitely need to make sure that the rubber hits the road and that it doesn't remain hypothetical. The one other thing I really wanted to say, there's a Google Doc, another Google Doc floating around someplace that has a sketch about what we would do with money. And it's my opinion that actually we could start 10 nonprofits, or we could take a mixture of existing nonprofits like planetmath.org and probably P2P Foundation as a nonprofit incorporated somewhere. Take a mixture of new ones and old ones and form a consortium. And this kind of consortium would be the Peeragogy.edu thing that was the subject of our first grant. It'd say, we don't need a traditional university. We've got these 10 nonprofits that do way more than a traditional university for way less money. That's an opinion. But my point is that if we can find those 10 things, we say, here's 10 nonprofits, either new ones or existing ones, Planet Math being one example, P2P Foundation being another example, and I no doubt we'll come up with 8 more in a breeze if we pick them, and say these are our kind of first time is free group. We bootstrap those 10 or so things. We have something very powerful at the end, in addition to the more abstract use cases which could then grow up. Planet Math is a nonprofit incorporated in Virginia.
So in that context, we would be not just Accelerator in terms of input and engagement, but you're saying also facilitate or consolidate those for purposes of facilitating funding.
I think he's saying, well, go ahead, Joe, what are you saying?
It's hard for me to switch between typing mode and talking, but what am I saying? Yes, absolutely. That we kind of got the growth model, which I think is in Jan's document. Self-organized learning environments can spring up here and there. We can get them in Vermont, and we can get them in Vancouver, and we can get them in, I don't know, sorry, I'm running out of steam, but all over the world. Little ones, big ones, ones for artist colonies, ones for people who are just trying to survive. All kinds of these different things. We'll share some principles, and we could, in theory, help with any of those. We could help in English. We could help in Spanish. We could help in, sorry, again, running out of steam. It's late in the day, but we have a growth model. I think it's in Jan's document. We can also build a core that's like, here are our core use cases. These things have been successful, like John was just saying. One of those things is, say, Charlie Danoff's teaching laboratory. Here's what it means, what success means in this case. Not only is that something you can replicate, then if you want to go and do some ESL stuff, you might go to Charlie because he can be a service provider in that. So we sort of have a consortium model of service provision, much like a university. You go to the mathematics department for math, you go to the chemistry department for chemistry, you go to Charlie for ESL, for example.
That sounds nice. And in theory, before you have, as you mentioned, the Flock Doc has some mock-up case studies, if you will. You might be able to do some simple animated slide-oriented videos that illustrate those cases, so people
Nice.
can have some simple visuals there. Say for each one of those 4, do a narrated slide set, that's somewhat cartoonish or diagramish or whatever, so people can see the general flow of where these techniques get you, and have a few of those videos posted out on YouTube and embedded in the site.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
And those are pretty simple to produce. It just depends on how fussy you are.
How what?
Fussy.
Ah, nice. Yeah. I think we have there's a line between like fussiness and then like time and like energy.
Exactly.
Sometimes you get like fussy, and then you don't have the time and the energy to actually get to where anything's done. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. That's a really good way to put it. That's how fussy you are. Absolutely. All right. Well, and I guess, Joe, are you saying the 10 nonprofit? That's like, it's kind of like we were talking, like you were saying, like the indie, like EDU bundle. Are you saying that as the only like accelerator project? I'll give you time to adjust from typing to speaking.
Ask me the question one more time, please.
Are you saying the 10 nonprofits as like the accelerator endeavor, or as like
I was saying maybe it's not 10, maybe it's 6, but yes, I think I was saying if we had our first class, class of 2014 Peeragogy Accelerator thing, and we said, these are the members of our accelerator right now. They've all got names. Some are formal nonprofits. Some are not formal nonprofits. Some will never be formal nonprofits. Some we're not even directly involved with, but we just want to help out with. So it could be, Soul Out of the Box, Flock, Planet Math, Danoff Laboratory, IPNE. We can let the list go big or keep it small. But the main point is we define a success model for each of those, and then we say at the end, this can be the kind of Peeragogy consortium, just like Y Combinator has its alum population. The alums of Y Combinator form this super elite hacker group. We can be the super elite Peeragogy group, and we can say, assemble to provide services that we couldn't do individually, power in numbers, just like a university. So I would say, yeah, it's like the indie bundle. It's like the peeragogy.edu proposal. Here, it's this one here.
You got it. I can find it. Okay.
It's in here. It's one of these items. So maybe what we should do is make each of these items, instead of a 1-sentence description, we should give a 3-sentence description to each of our previous efforts.
And like as John's saying, make like a short, 30-second video or something. Go ahead, Ray.
Well, I was going to say, well, from listening to this, at least when I wasn't cut off, about the organization, the way I see this more is as people in general. In other words, we started by saying, let's say there would be services. Well, obviously, service involves somebody, right? There's presumably whoever's providing the service and whoever's receiving it. So, one aspect of it. So at some point, you're going to have to say something about who. So the way I see it, there's going to be two types. There's going to be both individual members and group members. That sort of individual might be, let's say, one of us here who might have provided a service like helping write the handbook or whatever. And then there's groups who do it also. So I would imagine, I sort of think of the two together as going under the category of participants. And since it's peeragogy, obviously the roles are kind of flexible. That's not, unlike, let's say, a standard teaching situation where one will be the teacher and one will be a student. Rather, these are filling a role that could be either both or none. And the idea is that we're providing them as that if you're interested in this, here's someone groups or individuals you may want to contact.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, and I think that is a nutshell version of the Peeragogy project or the Peeragogy Accelerator. Very nice, and I'm not saying I put a little micro discussion of our operating principles. I think that could be like the preamble, in a way, to either the nonprofit description that Doug was talking about or this creed version that Jan was talking about, which I view them as overlapping. But I think that little paragraph is like, hey, this is how we do it. But the problem is, right now we do it in a very informal way. So we have these different times. I remember Paola did, helped a lot to make one document where people could sign up. Remember the sections? We kind of broke it out with sections, and I think we made different colors. I remember you were involved with that. But we've always found, and Fabrizio was involved with it, but I remember we've always found making plans and roadmaps just almost never go anywhere, and trying to make a who's interested in what document doesn't go very far either. So I think these are things where people would usually like to have a technological solution. Right now we have a very informal, organic solution where it isn't like you can go to a Rolodex and say, oh, okay, Doug is the guy to talk to about this, or Matthew is the guy to talk to about that. It's more like we have a meeting, Matthew shows up, he expresses some interest in that thing, and after the meeting, anyone who is interested in that might get in touch with him directly, and if not, we wait for the next time to come around. So it's kind of a slurry version of that. No real technology support. I'm going to stay agnostic about do we need technology for that. It's still our operating principle whether or not we're doing it with technology or organic.
I don't, I'm
definitely don't. Go ahead, Doug.
I'm not sure that it's a technology question as much as a sort of a scaffolding and framing question. If we, maybe a starting place. I forget whether it was Ray or John who alluded to it, but the idea of or Charlie, but the idea of individuals having or you, Joe, maybe it was you referencing everybody.
If it was smart, I probably said it.
If the individuals each sort of bucket well, which really it evokes for me my metacognition construct in this whole thing, which is self-declaration. If people sort of frame and define their footprint, expertise and value contribution, then we put that mosaic together. That defines sort of the resource pool and the universe of service providers, sort of definitionally, if you think about it. And then people can align and join those buckets. They can sort of add themselves and attach themselves. So it's not egocentric around the individual person as much as a way of bucketing resource, talent, and expertise in a declarative way, and creating centers or memes for various pieces of the peeragogic puzzle and contribution. That might be a really good starting place, and then we could figure out the mapping, the connective tissue and the mapping and the materials John is talking about for each of those buckets to be defined and articulated and framed and correlated to applications.
So the only thing I might add to that is when you mentioned, people as service providers, really given the nature of projects more direct, that, you're if you're providing, that everybody's really both a provider and a receiver.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I definitely think that makes a lot of sense, that to break it down by area.
So what would be do folks have any ideas about the most effective way to stand that up in terms of our current expression of this in websites, pages, and whatever? What would be the best framing for that?
So we got this doc, which I'm feeling so much better about now that we've typed all this stuff into it. It's got a narrative, it's got a flow, it's got a population of people behind it who have ownership over it. It's not just a bunch of bullet points. So we've done a lot of that. What we haven't done yet is we haven't taken Jan's thing and made it a creed. If that is something he's willing to have me, slice and dice his document and work on that. I would like to see that. I'd like to put it on a wiki, and I'd like to wikiize that document. And I'd like some other people to be involved with that. What else? So that's good. Okay, so we'll wikiize that.
We're going to end in 4 minutes.
Yeah, but Charlotte's eating a snack, so we get a little bit of a reprieve. So we need to wikiize that. I think the centers thing totally on board. Doug and John, I think you guys are very well aligned in that, to use a word I just learned from David Pinto. I was thinking of the word concepts. You know, my people who reviewed my thesis said, what are the core concepts? There can't be more than like 10, because you only want to have 1 or 2 per chapter. You know, we can't have 30 core concepts. So what are the buckets? What are the main buckets? What are the main keywords? I think soul is one of them. But peeragogy can't be one of them because, you know, we're all doing that. So, you know, we got to carefully think of what are the concepts. So maybe we can make a concept list and start bucketing things up.
That's a great idea. I love that idea of brainstorming sort of turfs as a group brainstorm.
Yeah, maybe we can even find a nice little voting platform so people can contribute ideas and we'll upvote and downvote the concept. So we see, yeah, 30 votes for patterns, only 2 votes for, I don't know, Charlie Danoff's party lifestyle. Sorry, Charlie. I was the one voting for. I was the one voting for you.
And I was gonna say it's a good non-starter. I mean, that's a good example of a non-starter. But now I gotta take it back. But yeah.
So those are 2 things I think we could stay quite busy with for at least this week, with the concept list and tackling the soul thing. I did also want to just get back about what would we do with money. I mean, we got a lot of brilliant people here.
What's that document you were talking about?
Yeah, maybe I need to find a link to that. It's another thing I would pitch in for some asynchronous editing as we're coming to the end here. But basically, it's saying we're talking about peeragogy at all scales. We're talking at the scale of a country. We're talking at the scale of an experiment, a micro experiment. You know,
and
stuff
party
you could
lifestyle.
do. Yeah. And you know, so it's sort of the document, which I'm about to unveil for you guys here into the chat, says, supposing we were getting a certain flux of money, like $10 per hour coming into the Peeragogy project, you know, maybe someone's paying for tutoring services. You know, I can imagine a around-the-clock tutoring service. We can, between those of us here, we could provide around-the-clock services, and gosh, we could get 1 person coming in per hour and being helped and then paying $10. Why not? Well, the fact is that's not a lot of money, first of all. It's not too little money either. And this grid just sort of says, okay, starting at $10 per hour and going out on these different scales of, you know, $100 an hour, $1,000 an hour, $10,000 an hour, and, you know, $10 per hour per day or per year. What can you do with that kind of flow? Which isn't a lot in some cases. $10 per year is not a lot, I'm telling you. $10 per day, well, you know, I'm not going to turn it down. $10 per year I might turn down. You know, I might say, you know, it's not even worth it. You know?
No, just sleep on it. Sleep on it before you decide anything.
Yeah. But then this is a grid we can fill in, you know, slowly, asynchronously, as we think about, hey, what would I do, and how, and also not just what would I do, but how do I get it, you know? So I had this idea of around-the-clock tutoring, but that's kind of a Joe Planet Math kind of idea. Maybe other people think, well, I don't care so much about $10 per hour tutoring. I'm more interested in $100 per hour consulting, but I know it doesn't happen around the clock. That's $100 a week, not an hour. Well, depending on how you figure. So,
well, then there's also the negative, like what we've been doing the past few years, where you're like losing money over the year.
That's also fun.
And instead of time, yeah. But all right. I think this has been amazing, and thank you everybody for joining. We have gone for 80 wonderful minutes, and we have Hive edited a very, very useful document now that we can move forward with. Does anybody have any parting notes they would like to share?
If I can, I'd just like to suggest that in folks weighing in or digging into these documents, that the focus be on action items, on concrete to-dos that take what we talked about and map it to actually, you know, beginning to express a framework or a scaffold that is defined and is populated and achieves what we're trying to achieve. Concrete to-dos help a lot with getting things done.
Yes, I agree. And also, I would add to that, I think John had a very good point. We should, and Paula also pointed out that we need more visual stuff. That would be a good, that'd be a good move. And I'm sorry, I was laughing at Charlotte comments about me keeping my hats. It's important as well. Okay, and yeah, so like to-dos and roadmap and yeah, all good. All right. Well, thank you if you have watched. We really appreciate your interest and support. You can find more at peeragogy.org, peeragogy.org. This has been the Monday, January 20th, Martin Luther King Day, if you're in the U.S. edition of the Peeragogy Accelerator Hangout. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.